Okay, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Cost, Bub, Blake, Marmee, and Labuda sitting in for Frazier. First item on the agenda is a request for legislation authorizing the mayor of the city of Newark to enter into a community development block grant funded sub-recipient agreement with the hereinafter named organizations to carry out activities included within Newark's fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant 1-Year Action Plan.
This legislation allows us to enter into contract with, we are planning to enter into contract with 8 different nonprofits. Each of the nonprofits, Behavioral Health Care Partners, St. Vincent de Paul, St. Francis, Coalition of Care, Licking County Coalition of Housing, Canal Market District, Together We Grow, the Woodlands New Beginnings. Each of those nonprofits will receive $5,000 in CDBG funding in 2019. Newark Development Partners, the CIC, will receive $60,000.
What about Canal Market?
They're 5.
Okay.
Everybody's 5 except the CIC.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion by Bub, second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,000.
I'll make a motion on it. I think it's just for
a payout. Yeah.
Bailiff resigning.
A motion by Bob.
Second.
Second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion?
I'd just like to say one thing. Judge Higgins is out of the office. That's why he's not here today.
Okay.
If that helps out at all.
It's a payout. It's pretty much,
Yeah.
we have to do it. Thank you.
Doug, you've got 6,500 here and 3,000 here.
Let me see here. Hold on. And does anybody know if it's 6,500 or 3,000? We'll make sure that we do it for the 3,000 because that's what the form says that was signed. So Autumn, if you would amend section 1 to make sure it represents 3,000 and not 6,500, would be greatly appreciated. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Just for the record, Councilmember Frazier is here now, so he will be on the committee for the remainder of the committee. Next item on the agenda is request for appropriation in the amount of $1,900.
This is a payout for Dylan Mullen.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $1,263.20.
So this is in reference to our Justice Reinvestment Grant. The grant cycle ends June 30th, and we are in the process of purchasing a vest for our Lift Court drug probation officer. So we would like to appropriate money to pay that bill.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $231.25. Equipment and supplies.
I don't have this one on my sheet.
It's requesting funds to be put back into the equipment supply account from the sale of the cargo bed extended sold by Gov Deals.
Okay. All right. Well, if it was sold on Gov Deals, then they'd like it put back into their account so they can use it.
Right.
This is for the fire department, I'm sorry.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for walking
Thank you.
through that one.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $10,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The $10,000 came from the Licking County Foundation. We're asking that it gets appropriated so that we can use it for the Flory Park care and maintenance.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will make one comment. Mr. Frazier has hit the ramps down there. If you-
Literally or figuratively?
Literally. To clarify both.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $30,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd like to put out an RFP, a request for proposal, to hire a professional to give us some advice on the homeless population. We're going to do this through the CIC. We're going to involve the United Way, and it's going to be a community RFP. What I'm asking for is an appropriation of $30,000 from our rainy day fund or budget stabilization fund. And I use the term up to $30,000 because what this does, this shows our community partners that we have a commitment that we're going to pay something. Now, what is something? Well, once the RFP is put together and it goes out and we get some quotes back, then we'll know exactly what something is. And then at that point, we can go around, we can ask the Newark Development Partners to pay part of that, the United Way to pay part of that, the Downtown Special Improvement District to pay part of that. So there might be some hesitation maybe to pass this out of committee with not knowing exactly what that number will be, but I'll give you some examples. When we did the wayfinding, well, let me back up a little bit. When we did the 2028 plan, that was about $100,000 to get that consultant in and to help us get the plan underway, of which the city paid about 20% of that through bed tax dollars. When we did the image and branding consultant and when we did the wayfinding consultant, those numbers were between $40,000 and $60,000. So we don't know exactly what this fee will be, but we do know this, that if we put our best foot forward and show, gosh, we're willing to pay something what yet to be determined, then at that point the community partners will follow and they'll kick in. We hope to have a healthy discussion about the homeless people.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Cost. Questions and or discussion? Mr. Frazier.
So, first off, what is the outcome of the proposal that we're looking for? Are we looking for a best practice, a plan, a collaborative agreement with these organizations? What is the proposal we're looking to get out of this?
What we're looking to get is maybe some guidance on a new issue that's kind of come to town and see how other cities and other communities have handled it in a collaborative effort with our community partners.
Yes.
Is there some organization with the subject matter expertise that we've already identified?
No. That's why we're going to put it out for an RFP. We're going to put it out, we're going to get some proposals, we're going to look at the proposals. When I say we, that is the city, that will be the United Way, that will be Newark Development Partners. We'll look at it, we'll determine which proposal fits best, then we'll enter into negotiations for a cost of that proposal. Then at that point, we'll break out the cost, who's going to pay what.
Yes, ma'am. Jeff?
Rochelle Dolan-Smith. I was wondering how long a contract that was for? Oh, and the address is 237 Violet Court.
Yeah. We don't have a length of time for the contract at this point. What we're looking for is some advice on the way other communities have handled this situation when it's arose.
Mr. Blake?
Mr. Chairman, Director Rhodes, it's my understanding that this is to pay for, there's a task force that's meeting this coming Wednesday.
There's a task force, that's correct.
And so these dollars are to go for this request for proposal coming out of the Licking County Housing Strategy Development. That's what the request for proposal says at the top. So it's not necessarily just the city of Newark and the CIC. This has been a group of people.
Again, this is a community proposal, and I just named 3 people that have been involved. That's all. That's all I named, was 3 people that have been involved. When the proposal goes out, a lot of entities will be involved. If you ask me to name the specific ones, I'm not going to do that at this point. But there is a task force Wednesday meeting, that is correct. We're listening to everybody, and we're going to make the best decisions on the proposal. That's correct.
Oh, you had a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a significant amount, $30,000. And from my understanding is that have we got a sense of how much other organizations are going to contribute in?
No, what we hope to do is put our best foot forward and say, guys, we're going to be a good partner in this. We're going to be a good partner. That's why I use the term up to $30,000. If we get a proposal back and it's $20,000, just pulling the number out of the air because we haven't had anything back, we're still going to go to our community partners. We're not just going to say, gosh, we're going to pay the whole $20,000. But again, as I referenced, the 2028 plan was around $100,000. Image and brand, wayfinding, I think were $60,000 and $40,000 respectively. I mean, I don't believe this is going to be less than $30,000.
Did you have a question?
Well, I guess I did to a degree. I think Jeremy covered some of it. So what I'm hearing you say is this could go beyond the city limits in terms of scope of, obviously the problem goes beyond the city limits as well.
Once we get back a proposal, I hope to engage the county commissioners. We hope to engage Grow Licking County, as well as the Special Improvement District. You know, Newark, we're kind of unique. We're the county seat. So all the entities reside in the county seat. So once it's determined where the draw is coming from, we'll reach out to community members, and that would include the county commissioners. That would include maybe Grow Licking County.
Mr. Frazier?
I have 2 questions. First one, where does this leave our rainy day fund?
At the end of April, we were a little over $600,000. Okay, and that was after we took the $250,000 out for the squads. And you got to remember that amount goes up each month.
And then for the second question, when are you thinking that you'll have an idea of what the actual dollar figure that the city needs to contribute is going to be?
Depends how long the RFP is put out there for. If it's put out there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month. If I had to throw a dart, 8 weeks, 10 weeks in that area.
Okay.
But why we come before you tonight is just to show the community, that, hey, we're willing to be a good partner in this. We're willing to participate. You know, if this gets to a second reading and I don't have a final number and you want to table it at the second reading until we have all those numbers broken apart, I'm fine, because that's just what it is. It's at the second reading. It's at that point. And I'm okay with that, because we'll have an opportunity to break it apart and come back to you and say, I'd be happy to come back at that point once on second reading and say, okay, here's the amount, this is the scope of work we're going to get for that amount, and here's who's paying what. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, that's the questions that I have is, first, has any other community, did we find that any other community has done anything like this? And, because if not, where are we going to get an expertise and some advice on something like this if no one else has ever done it?
That's a fair question, and if we don't get a good response, it'll be just that. We don't get a good response.
Okay, and then the other thing, I would just say that at some point, and I know we have time, and we don't have to, even if it passes forward, but more than likely there should be something in our legislation that just indicates that we're only going to pay up to a certain percentage. And that is where we would be, I would feel more comfortable. I understand you're saying, we want to be a good partner, which we do, but we also don't want to be the bearer of the entire burden or the majority of the burden.
And I get that too, and
Right.
it's very difficult to say what percentage we'll be at till we get the proposals back.
Right.
And that's why I said to you earlier, if you get it out of committee, go to first reading, second reading, you want to table it, till which time I can come back and fully break it apart.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, because what that does is it gets it out of committee, it gets past the first reading, and if we find something we really like, then we're poised to act. If we find something that we don't find anything, then at that point you can take it off the table and kill it, or leave it on the table, either way.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I agree with your comments of where I feel more comfortable with a percentage of what this total cost is. It seems kind of, the meeting to discuss the request for proposal is Wednesday evening, and so even the details of when it's going to go out, the finalization of the request for proposal, we could have it out for a month or 2 months, who knows? That meeting hasn't occurred until Wednesday night, and so it seems kind of premature for us to commit $30,000 out of the rainy day fund for something that may be $40,000, of which then I don't think the city of Newark should be paying a majority of that cost. It should be collaborative with United Way, with the Licking County Foundation, with other partners. So I have no disagreement with wanting to be a partner in this effort. My question is just related to the timing of this. And I think it's just I think this should be held off until at least until after Wednesday's meeting, when the task force comes back together to finalize the request for proposal. And if we are thinking of $30,000 to put in from the city of Northside, then I would hope that other council members attend that meeting on Wednesday. You have a right to know what's going to be in this request for proposal. If it's a $30,000 figure, then I would hope some of you others would attend, because in my opinion, that's a significant amount to contribute toward the consultant. If it was a direct service, I would be comfortable saying up to $30,000 for a direct service, but this is for a consultant. This is for someone to study what we're doing in our community. And I agree with Mr. Koss, this is most definitely a county-wide effort with the discussions that have been had in those task force meetings. So all the burden shouldn't rely on the city of Newark.
Yeah. What I'd say to that is I would welcome any help in attracting any other community members in paying for this. This just isn't a one-person idea. It's a community idea. In addition to the meeting that goes on Wednesday night, there's been several other meetings that have been held towards this, and this will all be kind of grouped together in that RFP.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Cox.
When and where is that meeting, if I may ask?
Jeremy, go ahead and tell.
Wednesday at 5 o'clock at the Commerce Building.
Mr. Frazier.
So let's talk about Happy Path, right? So we approve this out, we say, all right, we're going to go out, we're going to see what the appetite is for the other community members, as well as the best proposal. Go to first reading, go to second reading, somebody comes back with a proposal that says, hey, it's $50,000. We have community members on the hook for $35,000, and our contribution level was $15,000.
Mark, that very easily could happen.
And so what happens after that?
What happens after that, you guys would you'd bring it off the floor, you'd make an amendment to that level, it would pass, then we would enter into contract. And then the consultant would begin to do his work, the scope of work that's been outlined.
And then as part of that proposal, we have firm dates associated with what
Yeah, generally when you get those, you do get dates. You get dates, you get timelines, you get community meetings that are going to be held. Each consultant's a little bit different. And Mark, that'll be outlined in the proposal, exactly what to expect, when to expect, the community involvement,
what
things
the
of that
commitment
nature.
from everybody is.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I want everybody to keep in mind, this is just to get some plans going. The remedy will be far greater than that, and I'm not saying it's coming to us. I'm just saying, Franklin County, for instance, spends $33 million a year in homelessness and affordable housing. Now, that's a big number, and it's not what we're anticipating over here, but I'm just saying remedies include housing and buildings and, if I want to call it triage facilities to bring people through. Are you addicted and do you need to head this way? And if you're not, or you head this way. But it's all about programming, not just a roof over someone's head for a night. So those are things this task force is working on. It also is bringing together a lot of groups, and to try to get them under one umbrella and one concept, it sometimes takes a third party out there to do that in an effective way. So it's gone through some pretty good stages at this point. It takes some time to do it right, but this is kind of on the front edge of this. And again, to understand the remedy, no matter what it is, not saying we have a burden in that necessarily, but I'm just saying we'll be quite a bit more than that by far, I think, in the long run. So anyways, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rochelle Nolan-Smith, 237 Violet Court. Several questions. Is this conference open to the public, and is it the state building and that sort of thing? And the other, I'm assuming that this task force is involving funds from the state as well. And are we looking at models in other countries, and as well as like Texas has a very well-known model. So anyway.
Well, the first question is, the meeting is open to the public due to the sunshine laws, so it is an open meeting.
Okay. For fee?
No.
No.
Okay, great.
And the other thing is, as far as statement, I don't think any money's being brought forward at this point.
At this point,
It's
no.
just basically a task force looking at what type of solutions that the groups want to take. It's just they're addressing the issue is what they're doing now, and that's kind of the beginning stages. So there's been nothing discussed as far as what kind of fees and where we're going to get our funding from. And then the last one is as far as other countries, I mean, attend the meeting and you're going to find out probably what exactly is discussed.
So who's in the task force?
Jeremy, do you know all?
The mayor's there, I'm there. Basically, it's the heads of the social service agencies, Licking County Coalition of Housing, United Way, Newark Development Partners. There's about 20 to 25
So
people
largely
involved.
from the state?
Right.
Then.
And right now, the request for proposal was submitted in draft form from John Fisher to the full committee, which meets on Wednesday. And so that's kind of where we are right now. Now, I haven't been involved. I've only been involved in the larger task force meetings. I haven't been involved in the subcommittees or anything like that. But I know the next big one is this Wednesday.
I guess I'm hoping that they get some help from some states and countries that have had success in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Mr.
I'm
Ferry?
just going to make one statement. So where I'm at, I'm interested to understand what the strategy is, what's the total cost for the city, what this next steps are. And so I'm going to vote for this out of committee. If we don't have those details there, I'm going to recommend that we table it.
Yeah, and I would encourage that. I see that line of thought, and we're fine with that. What this does, it puts it out there. The city's going to be a good partner. We're going to be with you, but we're not going to bear the entire cost by any means. And you know, by the time we had asked for that to be off the table, we will have selected a group. We will have identified who's paying what of this and how much, and at that point, you know, we'll break that out to the full council without a problem.
And then the other piece too is incorporating that in percentages would be an additional amendment that we could do to add clarity for everybody. This is the portion that the city.
Yeah, when I get it, we won't keep that hidden. I'll email it out to all you guys so you know what it is. It's not a problem.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just encourage us to want to continue open dialogue on this topic. And I feel like committee is where we would have more open dialogue versus getting into full council. And so I would encourage the thought of just tabling it now until at least after this meeting happens on Wednesday. You know, at least tabling it for 2 weeks to see what happens Wednesday. And we get an actual final draft of the RFP versus just, I mean, have any other committee members seen the draft at least? None of you have even seen the draft. So I would recommend us keeping it in committee and tabling it now and keeping it in committee. So at least later on in 2 weeks, the committee can see the final request for proposal and we can continue open dialogue instead of getting into the formalities of what happens at full council. And I would make that motion to table now until 2 weeks.
I have a motion to table for 2 weeks. Do I have a second? I will second that motion. All those in favor of tabling for 2 weeks signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion to table passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is, no, that's all that's on the agenda. We have two of the same form. So sorry about that.
Isn't there a, yeah, it was the next piece of the 30,000,
Oh, yeah.
section 4.
Yes. So we also have a request for appropriation amount of 30,000. It's to move it from the rainy day to one fund and then from the other to this. So this one here will just, because the other one's been tabled, we will not have to act on this because you really needed the first one in order to act on this one. Okay? So with that, the Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned. Next up is service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting in order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Blake, and Lang. Up first, we'll consider ordinance number 19-11, approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances and resolutions as part of the various component codes of the codified ordinance, providing for the adoption of new matter in the updated and revised code ordinances, repeating ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Sasson, our law director, sent me an email this afternoon stating that he cannot attend this meeting of the Service Committee, but would ask that you give consideration to moving ordinance 1911 on to full council for adoption. This legislation is our standard semi-annual codifies ordinance update, and it is required as an emergency to meet the publisher imposed deadlines. I appreciate your help in meeting this obligation imposed upon us by law. So this is something that we do semi-annually. It simply updates books and public records to reflect our current ordinances and resolutions.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Bub. Seconded by Cost. Any questions, comments by the committee? Any questions or comments by the audience? All those in favor of passing this on to council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Meeting is adjourned, and we will resume at 7 o'clock with a full council meeting. Thank you.